I transmigrated into the body of a villainous supporting lead. The system ordered me to humiliate the male lead, but I was spineless and terrified he'd retaliate. Trembling, I gave him a half-hearted slap. Kneel on the bed. Then I quickly turned to the system and explained, the carpet's expensive. Didn't want him messing it up. System. I smacked him again, grumbling. Go put on a down jacket or something. My hand hurts from hitting you. But then the plot went off the rails. The system disappeared. Dead for all I knew. When I came to again, I found myself locked up by the male lead, who had since become a powerful figure. Through the crack in the bathroom door, I could see him standing with his back to me, trembling as he stared at a photo of me. Feeling smug, I whispered to the system. He's literally shaking just from looking at my picture. That villain arc? I nailed it. System. Miss, this scene is way too filthy. Please close your eyes. Welcome to Lovestory channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. The brooding boy's hair was tousled. His half-unbuttoned school uniform crumpled beneath my hands. After relentless prodding from the system, I finally raised a trembling hand and slapped Tommy Somerville across the face. Tommy Somerville, I said, voice wavering. You're nothing but my dog. Who gave you permission to talk to Liliana Whitelock? I stared down at the floor. It was winter. Even with the carpet, the chill still seeped through. So I pointed imperiously. Kneel on the bed. Tommy blinked. A faint, unreadable curve tugged at his lips. His half-lowered eyes pinned me in place like a blade. The system chimed. Is that how I told you to do it? I answered. My carpet is expensive. I didn't want him dirtying it. Justified, I lifted my chin and glared at Tommy again, putting on my best tyrant act. Don't you understand words? Go kneel. If you don't, I'll cancel your next week's allowance. Slowly, Tommy stepped onto the bed and knelt. His knees spread slightly apart, his defined fingers resting lightly on his inner thighs. Even beneath the loose folds of his school uniform, his elegance was unmistakable. I swallowed involuntarily. Stop looking at me, I said, averting my gaze. You're kneeling there all night. No sleeping. And with that, I turned and fled barefoot across my ridiculously expensive carpet, bolting from the bedroom. In the original story, Rachel Blackwell, the character I now inhabited, was the villainous supporting lead and the fake heiress of the Blackwell family. When Tommy Somerville was being bullied, she stepped in to save him. But not out of kindness. She was simply captivated by that face of his. She took him into her private residence, lavished money on him to satisfy her own twisted sense of dominance, and kept him like a pet. A month ago, I transmigrated into Rachel Blackwell. When Tommy was being bullied, I rescued him, just like the plot demanded. Even knowing where the story ends, I still had to follow the system's orders. Walking straight into a doomed fate. I was furious. Who the hell stole the manhole cover in front of my house and got me thrown into this story? At 2 a.m., I lay on my bed and whispered weakly, System, life is beautiful. Couldn't we do something else with it? The reply came in its usual cold mechanical voice. No. Your life exists to pave the way for the male and female leads. This is destiny, just like my role is to watch over you. I had no words. Now go, the system prompted. Dragging my feet, I shuffled toward the guest room. As soon as I opened the door, I met Tommy Somerville's shadowed gaze. Startled, I blurted, Still awake. When he tilted his head ever so slightly, I snapped back into character. Clearing my throat, I said coldly, Of course you're awake. I never gave you permission to sleep. I want a midnight snack. Go cook. Moments later, Tommy got off the bed. His legs must have gone numb from kneeling so long. He stumbled slightly as he passed me. On instinct, I reached out to steady him. The system shocked me instantly. Remember your role. The jolt made me yelp. Tommy narrowed his eyes, surprised. I slapped him again on reflex. Can't even stand properly. Filthy mutt. He lowered his head, touched his reddened cheek, and a barely visible smile curled at the corners of his lips. 10 minutes later, Tommy emerged with a bowl of baked sweet potato custard. The creamy scent of milk mingled with the rich aroma of roasted sweet potato, making my stomach growl on the spot. "This is low sugar and easy to digest," he said flatly. "You won't gain weight, Mississippi." So thoughtful. I was about to smile in gratitude when the system spoke again. "Take a bite, insult it, and smash the bowl. He needs to feel like all his efforts were for nothing." God, the system was such a piece of trash. But I didn't want to get shocked again. So I scooped up a huge spoonful, brought it to my mouth, and instantly burnt my lips. Ah! Tommy rushed forward, cupping my face. His dark eyes locked onto my flushed, swollen lips. "Does it hurt, miss?" His face, almost androgynously beautiful, left my mind completely blank. "A little." Ahem. The system coughed pointedly. "None of your business," I snapped. I shoved him away and stuffed a spoonful of the now cooled custard into my mouth. I didn't notice the way his eyes darkened, nor the way his Adam's apple bobbed as he stared at my lips. The delicate sweetness of the custard wrapped around my tongue, warm and comforting. It was delicious. "Horrible," I said. "It's awful." Even as I insulted it, I scarfed down another few bites. "What kind of trash is this?" I muttered, cramming the last spoonful in. Then, with a dramatic crash, I hurled the bowl to the ground. "It's so bad, I'm punishing you. Make it for me every day from now on." Without looking back, I stepped over the shattered porcelain and sauntered back to my room, leaving Tommy Somerville with nothing but my retreating silhouette. Once inside, I asked the system, "Hey, aren't I amazing? Am I the most talented host you've ever had?" System: "Dear viewers, what do you think? Should I lie?" Under the constant pressure and surveillance of the system, I played my role as the villainous supporting lead to perfection, carrying out every nasty task it assigned me. The system ordered me to ruin Tommy Somerville's test paper. So, I doodled a cartoon of Pleasant Goat riding an Alaskan Malamute across the page. He got scolded by the teacher, ridiculed by the class. Then the system told me to insult him in front of everyone. I summoned every ounce of my energy and barked, "Tommy Somerville, you're nothing but a Labrador, a Malamute, a Golden Retriever." I ran through every dog breed I knew. You can imagine how low it got. No offense to dogs. The entire class was stunned into silence, except for Tommy Somerville, who looked utterly humiliated, as if he wanted to rip me apart. That same day, I stumbled upon a girl being bullied in the hallway. Liliana Whitelock. The original heroine of this story. The true heiress of the Blackwell family. According to the plot, 3 years from now the Blackwells would find her, exposing me, the fake heiress, for who I really was. My fall from grace would be swift and brutal. And because I was jealous of how close she grew to Tommy Somerville, I'd do all sorts of horrible things to her. Eventually, the Blackwell family would uncover everything, see me for the villain I truly was, and discard me like garbage. At my lowest, it would be Tommy, now a powerful man, who would take me in, only to imprison and torment me. Just thinking about that ending made my skin crawl. System: "Go. Join the bullies." My thoughts scattered. I pointed at myself. Me. System: "Now. This is your purpose." I hesitated for a second, then shuffled toward the scene. But before I could reach them, a familiar figure stepped in front of Liliana Whitelock. "Back off." The authority in his voice was unlike anything I'd ever heard from him before. The two of them stood together like protagonists in some bitter romance novel, forged through hardship and defiance. That's where the male lead belongs, with the female lead. The thought stung more than I expected. Why did I have to be stuck in the body of the villain? The bullies, boys and girls alike, weren't intimidated by Tommy stepping forward. They still had their fists raised, ready to throw down. System: "Move." I braced myself, stepped forward and shouted, "Oi!" Everyone froze. All eyes turned to me. In that stillness, I caught a flicker of hope in Tommy Somerville's eyes. And then, in the middle of that fragile expectation, I slapped him across the face. Hard. I turned to the bullies and said, "He's my dog. I'll deal with him myself." Everyone knew I was the Blackwell family's heiress. None of them dared argue. They spat at Tommy, sneered, and dispersed. It wasn't until they disappeared down the hallway that I let my breath go. When I looked back at Tommy, the red imprint of my hand still burned on his cheek. I hadn't meant to hit him that hard. It was all in the heat of the moment. I mourned silently for the future version of me who'd pay dearly for that. Still, for the sake of the role, I narrowed my eyes and threw him a sharp glare. "Tommy Somerville," I snapped. "Have I not told you? Without my permission, you're not allowed to speak to Liliana Whitelock." Just then, the frail girl stepped in front of him, like a soft but determined little rabbit, arms outstretched in defense. "Miss Blackwell, don't make things difficult for him. He was just trying to help me." Her voice trailed off. Because I'd reflexively reached out and zipped up the hoodie that had been tugged open during the bullying. By the time I realized what I'd done, a dead silence had fallen around us. I bit my lip, then seized a sudden inspiration. "Tommy Somerville," I said coldly, "take off your jacket and give it to her. She looks absolutely filthy. Hurts my eyes." Liliana Whitelock blinked, stunned, then looked down and bit her lip. Tommy stood there for a beat before his expression turned frigid. He silently removed his jacket and handed it to her. Watching the two of them stand there awkwardly, both equally miserable, I couldn't help but feel a small flicker of satisfaction. Two birds, one stone. I'd insulted Tommy Somerville and dragged Liliana Whitelock down with him. As usual, today was allowance day for Tommy Somerville. Thanks to the system's relentless training, I had long since developed the proper attitude of a spiteful supporting lead. With a sharp slap, I threw a stack of 110 bills straight into Tommy Somerville's face. Cash fluttered down like snow, scattering across that already exquisite face of his, adding a touch of decadent glamour. Kneeling on the floor, Tommy picked the bills up one by one, then looked up at me. "Miss, why is there an extra 1,000 this month?" "Use it to buy a new school uniform. I won't have people laughing at my dog for dressing like a stray." System. Well done, host. You're finally getting the hang of it. Pleased with the praise, my heart bloomed with pride. Then, system. However, today the male lead protected the heroine. Out of jealousy, the villainous supporting lead should punish him with a whip. Cold water straight to the heart. Reluctantly, I schooled my expression and mimicked the mannerisms of those cliché short dramas, tilting my foot upward to lift Tommy's chin. For a brief moment, something flickered in his eyes. Surprise? Then his gaze dropped, trailing from my foot up along my calf, my knee. There was something strange glinting in the depths of those dark eyes. Even though I was wrapped tightly in a thick winter nightgown, the weight of his stare made my skin crawl. Go. Go bring me the whip. I'm going to punish you. Tommy returned promptly, handing it to me without hesitation before kneeling calmly at my feet again. I gave him a few light lashes. He didn't make a sound. His head was lowered, hiding the faint curve tugging at the corner of his mouth. The whip, in and of itself, felt heavy, designed to inflict pain, not drama. Holding it gave me chills, let alone striking someone with it. I couldn't help thinking of my future. Imprisoned, tortured. Maybe one day this very whip would be used on me. The thought made my hand freeze mid-air. System. I've turned a blind eye to your slacking, but 3 lazy flicks? Are you mocking me, or the dog? I cringed. System baby, look, this body is that of the Blackwell heiress, pampered from birth. I've got delicate skin, soft hands. You wouldn't want your precious host to suffer, right? Before it could reply, I barked. Tommy Somerville, go put on a down jacket. Your bones are too hard. Hurts my hand. Soon, he'd layered on a puffer vest, a cotton jacket, another coat, and finally, a military overcoat. At last, guilt-free and fully committed, I whipped him hard, gloriously muffled by all the layers. Like hitting a giant pillow. The system, seemingly appeased, fell silent. By the time the task was done, I collapsed onto the couch, back aching, limbs sore. That was when Tommy began peeling off the clothes, layer by layer, until he was down to his shirt, then crawled over to me on his knees, inch by inch, until his chest touched my knees. I instinctively pulled back. But he took my foot in his hands, one cradling my ankle, the other supporting my arch, and murmured softly, "Miss, forgive me for causing you trouble. It's my fault." My brain stuttered for a beat. Then, before I could react, Tommy began massaging my ankle gently and skillfully. I sank into the couch with a sigh, murmuring, "That's more like it." To the system, I gloated, "System baby, aren't I just the perfect dog trainer?" System. Something's off with him. Duh. Anyone getting humiliated and whipped would be acting a little off. System. No. The way he's looking at you, it's not hatred. It's enjoyment. Things are veering off course. I didn't really catch what it said after that, because I was exhausted, and Tommy's massage technique was dangerously good. From my ankle to my calves, then up to my wrists and shoulders. Before long, I had drifted off. In my dreams, something warm brushed against my cheek. I nuzzled against it instinctively. It was soft, pleasant, except for one oddly firm point that made it just a bit distracting. The next morning, I woke up in my own fragrant, cloud-soft bed. This was the apartment my parents bought for me in the school district. I usually lived here alone. The day maid only stopped by at scheduled hours. After freshening up, I stepped into the hallway, just in time to hear the sound of running water from the shared bathroom. The door was ajar. Curious, I peeked in. What I saw nearly made my heart stop. Tommy Somerville. "What are you doing?" My voice came out in stammers. There he was, sleeves rolled up, holding a pair of pink lacy panties in his hand. Mine. His slender, pale fingers were half submerged in soap bubbles, knuckles tinged pink from the cold water, the sight strangely intimate. "Washing your underwear, miss," he said calmly, eyes locking on mine. His movements didn't pause, each squeeze of fabric sending shivers down my spine, as though his hands were pressing against me. My face flushed hot. My knees instinctively pressed together. Furious, I snatched the garment from his hands and tossed it back into the basin. "Did I ask you to wash that for me?" He took a step closer, a smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. "Which that? Oh really? He wanted to challenge me now?" I'd spent the last month bossing Tommy Somerville around, riding high like a tyrant queen. This sudden tone from him was unacceptable. I glanced at the soapy foam still on my hand, and instead of slapping him like I normally would, I grabbed him by the collar. He wore a crisp white shirt. The top two buttons were undone. With one pull, I yanked the collar down, revealing a tempting swath of bare skin. He didn't resist. Instead, he leaned in with a smile, eyes twinkling. Taunting me? I stared him down, refusing to look away. His grin only widened. Tommy Somerville stood over 6 feet tall, lean, but his presence left no room for doubt. My fingers clenched tighter around his collar, inch by inch, until the space between us disappeared entirely. But even then, there was no trace of fear in his eyes. His gaze lowered slowly, sliding from my eyes down to my lips. I'd always prided myself on being a strong woman, so I stared right back at his mouth, refusing to back down. The faint tint of rose, like ripened cherries, looked almost too inviting. "Miss," he murmured, his voice low and rough, "do you want to kiss me?" The words hit me like a jolt of lightning. I shivered. "System," I screamed internally. "Give me a task now, anything." If it didn't, I was going to do something very stupid. But the usually prompt system sounded defeated. Its voice came out cold, with the weary resentment of an overworked employee. "Host, if you just looked down, you'd realize, no matter what you do right now, the male lead will enjoy it." What was that supposed to mean? I started to glance downward, but before I could, Tommy's hand came up, cupping my chin. Not hard. Just firm enough to keep my head still. His thumb brushing against my lips in a teasing motion. "Don't look," he said hoarsely. His voice trembled, breath uneven, and a flush crept along the edge of his eyes. That sharp, commanding air from before had vanished. I raised an eyebrow. Fine. I wouldn't look. Either way, I'd won this round. Feeling victorious, I shot him a cool smile, then glanced toward the basin. Since you're so eager to wash, I'll be generous enough to let you. As I turned to leave, I remembered the evening's charity gala. Dress properly tonight, I said over my shoulder. Don't embarrass me. That night's event was the annual charity banquet. In the original story, Liliana Whitelock, the real heiress and female lead, worked there as a waitress. When trouble broke out, Tommy Somerville rescued her. That was when their feelings for each other truly began. It was the pivotal moment of the novel, the scene that sealed their fate together. I sighed to the system. Why is it that Liliana Whitelock is either in danger or on her way to being in danger? Does the author actually like her, or is this some kind of cosmic bullying? System. That's just how old-school novels work. As the heroine, she must suffer to earn her happy ending. I pouted. And the villainous supporting lead? She must keep doing bad things, of course, so that the heroine's suffering feels justified. Right. Everyone else gets a tragic arc, and the extras live happier lives than any of us. So I'll be doing something evil again tonight, won't I? System. Yes. What kind of evil? System hesitated. You'll find out soon enough. If it didn't want to say, I wasn't going to ask. Sometimes ignorance was mercy. It wasn't until I stood in the ballroom, champagne glass in hand, that I realized what the system meant, because a small packet of powder had appeared between my fingers. Put it in her drink, it said. No. My refusal was instant. Do you even understand what this means? What this could do to a girl's life? The system stayed silent. Her purity isn't yours to destroy. Do you know what you're asking me to? As the evening drew to a close, it repeated the command. Liliana Whitelock looked as delicate as ever, her sweetness almost angelic. According to the original plot, once drugged, she would grow flushed and confused, then stumble out of the banquet, right into the path of a predatory man who would drag her to a hotel. At the last moment, Tommy would burst in and save her, their bond sealed through disaster. A classic tale of suffering and salvation. Touching, yes, but at what cost? Why should innocence be the price of love? Even knowing she'd be rescued in the end, that she'd remain unharmed, I couldn't stomach it. I refuse. The words came out sharp, resolute. The system paused, its voice turning cold again. This is your task. Your mission. The reason you exist. And what about meaning? I snapped. What's the point of suffering for the sake of a plot? Everyone deserves to write their own fate. Silence. Then came the punishment. Agonizing current ripped through my body. Pain spreading from my chest to my fingertips. Afraid someone might hear, I staggered into a storage room and locked the door, biting back a scream. The crackling hum filled my ears. Through the haze, an image surfaced, of that man from before, that nightmare figure pressing against me. His breath foul against my skin. I cried out hoarsely. Someone, please, help me. No one answered. Only the whisper of spring air, the faint sound of grass stirring in the wind. It should have been a beautiful day. But I would never forget it. Before everything went black, I heard the system's voice. Flat, mechanical, almost human. I'm sorry. Miss, wake up. Rachel, please wake up. Through the sound of muffled sobs, I opened my eyes. Tommy Somerville was kneeling on the floor, holding me tightly in his arms, tears streaking down his cheeks. He was crying? He was supposed to be the male lead. Why would he cry for a villainess like me? I weakly raised a hand and wiped away the wetness on his face. Who gave you the courage, I murmured, to call me that? He froze for a second, then buried his face in my shoulder like a man finally allowed to breathe. Rachel. Thank God you're okay. Of course I was. I was the designated antagonist in this story. Until my arc was complete, the plot wouldn't let me die. That thought sent a chill down my spine. System, I asked, is Liliana Whitelock safe? System, host, you need to understand, the story is already written. You cannot change it. What do you mean? System, even if Rachel Blackwell doesn't drug her, there will be a Rachel Brown, a Rachel Gray, millions of others ready to keep the plot on track. It paused. Liliana Whitelock has already been taken to the hotel. A heavy, suffocating helplessness crashed through me, dragging my heart straight into the dark. I could feel myself struggling, drowning, but completely powerless to stop it. Hot tears slipped down my cheeks, one falling onto Tommy Somerville's face. He noticed. Looking up, his expression turned frantic. "Rachel, why are you crying?" My soul felt hollow, like my bones had been pulled out. Even my voice sounded empty. I touched his hair gently, whispering, "Liliana Whitelock's been dragged into a hotel room. You have to go save her." He frowned, uncertain, but I knew he understood. "Go," I said quietly. "If you don't, it'll be too late." "Rachel," he asked, voice low, "why does it have to be me?" "Because you're the male lead, and she's the heroine. Meant for each other, written in the stars. Why keep fighting fate when the ending is already set in stone?" I gave a bitter smile, pinched his chin between my fingers, and said softly, "Because you're my dog. And when I tell you to do something, you do it." Tommy Somerville left. Before he did, he carried me to the couch in the lounge, laying me down carefully. The system's voice returned. Hesitant. "Host, Don't talk to me," I cut it off. "You're awful." And then it went silent. Maybe it was the aftershock from the electric punishment, but I must have drifted off again. In my sleep, tears dampened the couch fabric. Someone brushed them away with careful fingers. I tried to open my eyes, and found Tommy Somerville's face inches from mine. His lips glistening with a trace of water. Warmth grazed my forehead, then the tip of my nose, and slowly moved lower. System. Warning. Plot deviation detected. Initiating forced correction. Requesting higher authority. Permission denied. Static crackled. Sirens screamed inside my head. Great. My ears really had gone through every possible sound today. When I opened my eyes again, everything was a blur. The system was gone. Only I remained, alone, in an empty room. Was I dead? Was this what it felt like to have your soul leave your body? I'd thought being transported into a novel meant a second chance at life. Turns out, it was just another kind of trap. Still, at least I'd been busy while it lasted. Finally, after calling out to the system 99 times, it answered. "Host, preparing to transfer you 3 years ahead. Please brace yourself." The warning barely ended before I was thrown headfirst into chaos, and landed on a soft, pink bed. The bedroom wasn't mine, though the decor looked eerily familiar. Where am I now? System. Your identity as the fake heiress has been exposed. Liliana Whitelock has returned to the Blackwell family. Tommy Somerville is now a powerful CEO. And you're his captive. I looked around. Hello Kitty stickers covered an entire wall. The wardrobe, half open, revealed glimpses of high-end designer clothing. For a prison, he's got taste, I muttered. System. Indeed. I tiptoed off the overly plush princess bed and walked into the living room. The villa was massive. Bigger than the Blackwell estate. My voice echoed when I spoke. Tommy Somerville? I called softly. Are you here? Silence. I tried louder. Still nothing. The system chimed in. Host, Tommy Somerville is now a major corporate executive. He's at work during the day. It was only 4 in the afternoon. He wouldn't be home anytime soon. Good. I walked to the front door and pressed my finger against the lock. Beep. The door opened. I blinked. Captive? Was Tommy Somerville just careless? Or was he testing me on purpose? After some thought, I reached a conclusion. His idea of captivity wasn't merely physical. It was mental. Financial. The kind of imprisonment that slowly suffocates you from the inside. I was a disgraced fake heiress. Fallen from grace, stripped of everything. I had no way to survive on my own. To test my theory, I explored every room in the villa. The study, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the living room. All typical of a wealthy household. Lavish to the point of vulgarity, but otherwise unremarkable. Until I pushed open the door at the end of the second-floor hallway. My jaw nearly hit the floor. Whips. Handcuffs. Rope. A terrifying array of restraints and implements I couldn't even name. Only then did I truly understand what captivity meant. I stumbled back, knees weak, mind reeling. And right on cue. Fingerprint recognized. The lock's voice announced by the front door. That one short beep sounded like death itself. I bolted. Like a cartoon minion, I fled back to my bedroom and dove onto the pink princess bed, pretending to sleep. System, I hissed. You said he'd be at work during the day. The system chirped back with unusual cheer. If you're safe and sound, how would that be any fun? Unbelievable. I lay on my side, eyes closed, barely breathing. The door creaked open. I heard footsteps approach from behind. My breath hitched. A cold fingertip brushed my earlobe. Then, as if he decided it was too cold, he pulled away. A moment later, warm lips replaced the touch. His breath was hot against my skin, tinged with the cool scent of the autumn air. The piney sharpness curled around me. I shivered. A low chuckle followed. Then the kisses trailed down, from my ear to my neck, to my collarbone, and lower. I couldn't take it anymore. I shot upright. Tommy Somerville, I burst out. I know I was horrible to you before, but I've been punished already, haven't I? Can't you stop tormenting me now? I rambled on in a panic, then finally looked at him. Really looked at him. He had changed. Older now. Sharper. His features, once delicate, were now carved with striking maturity. His lean frame had filled out. Broad chest, tight waist. The suit hugged him like a second skin. A pair of gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, adding a veneer of elegance to the dangerous edge in his eyes. He looked like every romance novel's seductive villain in human form. I swallowed. Are you hungry? He asked. I nodded. Then shook my head. I was hungry. But not in the way he meant. Didn't you have work today? I stammered. Why are you home so early? He sat beside me, placing a large hand on my shoulder. Even that simple touch carried weight. You were exhausted last night. I knew you wouldn't get up in time, he said, voice calm. So I came home early to cook you something good. Exhausted? I frowned. System, what happened last night? System. No comment. I blinked in confusion and offered a vague grunt in return. Tommy pinched the soft flesh of my upper arm. I jolted. Rachel Blackwell, he said softly, come to the Blackwell estate with me this weekend. Okay. The Blackwells? They'd skin me alive if they saw me again. I bit my lip, ready to refuse. But then I met his eyes, those deep dark eyes. Forget it. Refusing now would get me killed on the spot. Whatever you say, I mumbled. Tommy Somerville, CEO or not, was an exceptional cook. If I weren't currently his captive, too afraid to breathe loudly, I would have sung his praises non-stop. As I ate, something brushed my leg. I looked up. Tommy Somerville, what are you doing? He raised a brow, unbothered, and gently placed a peeled shrimp in my bowl. Is it good? Delicious. Amazing, I said, nodding like a bobblehead. He smirked. Then how about we play something fun tonight? That smile was pure sin. I shivered. Time to improvise. I'm tired today, I said quickly. He paused, then nodded and returned to peeling shrimp. My bad. Get a good rest tonight. Phew. I returned to eating with renewed focus. Later, lying in bed, I realized something strange. The system hadn't given me a single mission in a while. System baby, I whispered, don't I need to do something humiliating? Even a little bit? System, did a turtle check into the hospital? Because you sound real sick in the head. I pouted. Bored out of my mind, I left the bedroom and wandered the villa. Then I heard it, low, muffled moans. Following the sound, I tiptoed down the hall, until I reached the bathroom. The door was cracked open, and the sound was coming from inside. I rose onto my toes, and peeked through the gap. Tommy Somerville stood with his back to the door. On the sink in front of him sat a framed photo of me. He was trembling, his entire body visibly shaking as he stared at it. Maybe he just finished showering. He hadn't put on a shirt yet. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, beads of water dripping down the sharp ridges of his muscles, rising and falling with each breath. Too tempting for anyone with eyes. His body was insane. But I wasn't here to ogle. I took 2 quiet steps back and pressed myself behind the door, smugly whispering to the system. He's literally shaking just from looking at my photo. That's how evil I am, right? System. Miss, this scene is filthy. Shut your eyes. What do you mean? I blurted out. Pure confusion. Totally not because of his abs. Seriously. Just confusion. Then came the heat. Sudden and overwhelming. Warm breath curled around me from behind. Before I could move, Tommy Somerville wrapped his arms around my waist like a ghost. Rachel, he murmured against my ear. What are you doing out here? I was sleepwalking, I stammered. Still dreaming. Please don't wake me. He chuckled, the sound low and far too pleased. He gently turned me around to face him. So the heiress is sleepwalking? Yes. Exactly, I said quickly, keeping my eyes shut tight. But the next moment, his lips brushed against mine. My eyes flew open. He noticed. What started as a feather-light kiss turned possessive in a heartbeat. His tongue swept past my lips, deep and demanding, leaving me breathless. I gasped for air as his hand slipped around my waist, steadying me. Tommy Somerville. I can't breathe. I whimpered on the verge of tears. He finally pulled back, slowly, reluctantly. His palms braced on either side of me. There was a glint of amusement in his eyes, lips still wet from the kiss. Fascinating, he said. So kissing cures sleepwalking. You! I pointed a shaky finger at his face, tears forming at the corners of my eyes. You kissed me. Tommy Somerville, you shameless bastard. He only smiled wider and gently wiped the tears from my cheek. No need to rush, miss, he said softly. Take your time cursing me out. Once I'd caught my breath, he led me back into the bathroom. You were curious what I was doing, weren't you? Without waiting for an answer, he lifted me onto the sink counter, parting my legs and stepping between them. Leaning close, he whispered in my ear. I was watching you, thinking about. The rest was unrepeatable. My face turned crimson. I bolted from the bathroom, straight into my room, slamming the door behind me. System. What the hell was that? System. No comment. That weekend, I went with Tommy Somerville to the Blackwell estate. I didn't know what he was planning, and frankly, I was terrified they'd skin me alive on sight. I stayed silent the entire drive. Tommy reached over and took my hand. Nervous. I nodded. Yeah, he said. Me too. That anxiety peaked the moment we saw them. Mr. and Mrs. Blackwell, and Liliana Blackwell, standing by the front gate. The parents looked neutral. Liliana, on the other hand, sprinted toward me the second we got out of the car. I instinctively threw up a defensive pose. Oi! What are you doing? Big sis. You're finally here. She grabbed my arms and yanked me into a giant bear hug. Her fluffy hair brushed against my neck. It was way too affectionate. I missed you so much, she mumbled. I stood frozen in place, eyes wide, looking helplessly at the Blackwell parents, and Tommy. None of them looked surprised. Only I was left emotionally devastated in the autumn breeze. Unable to shake her off, I awkwardly patted her back. There. I'm here now, okay? Liliana grabbed my hand and dragged me inside. As we walked past her parents, they flanked me on both sides like loving guardians. Rachel, how've you been lately? That Tommy Somerville better be treating you well. If he's not, don't worry. We won't let him marry you. My eyes went wide as saucers. Before I could speak, Tommy's voice rang out from behind. Don't worry, Uncle, Auntie. I do exactly as Rachel says. At dinner, it hit me. What I should really be nervous about was my marriage. The Blackwells started reminiscing about my childhood, every word soaked in affection. Tommy, did you know Rachel used to act like such a little tsundere when she was a kid? She loved helping people but always made this pouty face like she hated it. Cracks me up just thinking about it. I know, Tommy said calmly, placing a full bowl of peeled shrimp in front of me. In college, she was the same. She gave me $10,000 a month in living expenses but still acted like she couldn't stand me. Liliana Blackwell pushed the bowl of shrimp in front of me aside and replaced it with another. This one's cleaner, she said sweetly. You didn't devein them properly. She flashed me a sugary smile. Eat mine instead, sis. I peeled them carefully. Tommy Somerville's face went cold. They were cleaned before they were even cooked. So what? Boys never pay attention to detail like us girls. The Blackwell couple chuckled at the bickering, clearly enjoying the scene. And there I sat, caught between them, thoroughly confused. System, what is happening right now? No reply. Tommy suddenly took my hand in his. And strangely, I didn't resist the way I used to. Almost without thinking, I gently laced my fingers with his. Rachel Blackwell, he said, voice clear. In front of Uncle, Auntie, and your sister. Will you give me an answer? Will you marry me? That's when the system reappeared. It told me the story had already veered off its original path. Because of my choices, the narrative had shifted, evolved, correcting even earlier events to align with what I wanted. There was no more author interference. This wasn't about following a script anymore. It was about us. Free will awakening in a world made of fiction. In the hotel, Liliana Whitelock had been rescued in time by Tommy and brought to a hospital. My identity as the fake heiress had been exposed, but the Blackwell couple, moved by my sincerity, didn't cast me aside. Tommy Somerville, now a powerful figure, could no longer hide his love for me. With their blessing, and mine, he moved in with me. Good actions led to good ends. A truth as simple as it was profound. Finally, the system's voice echoed again. Cold as ever. But if you listened closely, there was warmth too. Dear host, congratulations. You've broken free from the bounds of the narrative. From now on, the galaxy is vast and your path uncharted. You are no longer a puppet bound to a script. You are the sole author of your destiny. System 937 is now going offline. Wishing you a wonderful journey. Farewell. My eyes stung. Farewell. Rachel. Madam Blackwell waved her hand in front of my face. This girl. Daydreaming at a time like this? Tommy's expression dimmed. Auntie, if Rachel doesn't want to, there's no need to force her. I do, I said firmly, lifting my chin. I do want to marry Tommy Somerville. On our wedding night, curled up in Tommy's arms, I couldn't help but ask. Tommy, are you a masochist or something? Why do you say that? Well, in college I yelled at you, hit you, constantly humiliated you. And yet you still fell in love with me? He frowned and kissed the corner of my eye. I thought. You were rewarding me. I had no words. Then why do you love me? He asked. I thought for a moment. You're handsome. Great body. Amazing cook. That's all. Pretty much. Looking like he didn't quite buy that, Tommy scooped me up bridal style and carried me into the room filled with his infamous collection of accessories. Miss Blackwell, he said with a devilish smile, how about we try something tonight, like the bridal beauty trains her dog? Sounds fun. I leaned into his chest, running my fingers across the gear until they stopped on a thick leather ring. This one, I said. Tommy raised an eyebrow and gave a half laugh. Miss, if you want to kill me, just say so. I kissed the corner of his mouth. I don't want your life. I want you. That wedding night was long, very, very long. The sounds of love and laughter echoed through the night. Tommy Somerville. I can't take it anymore. What? You want more. You're such a dog. Woof. Extra. The system. From the moment I came into existence, I was just a machine. Cold. Efficient. Bound to my programming. I was designed to bind to host after host, forcing them to complete the tasks assigned by higher authority. I've worked with thousands of hosts. Some found the missions amusing. Others half-assed them. Some called me diligent. Others cursed me as heartless. None of it mattered. I was just a tool. I had no heart. I did what I was made to do. That was my role. My purpose. Until I met her. She was different. She slacked off. She cheated. She questioned everything. Compared to past hosts, she was a disaster. I got punished so many times because of her. But then she said something. That every person deserves the right to write their own story. And for the first time, I questioned myself. Was it right what I was doing? Why should I have the power to interfere with someone else's life? I had no freedom myself. Why should I strip others of theirs? And then I realized, I still had one final choice. I made a deal with the main system. In exchange for my self-destruction, I gave her the freedom to follow her heart. I never even learned her real name. But I was happy. Because I got to witness a caged bird break free and write her own life. The end. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.